This is Elijah Monty, and he's the marketing mastermind behind all of my content, but then most importantly, a group of telesales agents that are doing $300,000 to $400,000 per month in production. So in this episode, we're gonna be breaking down everything that you need to know so that you can spend money on Facebook profitably.
Marketing will take a really good salesman as far as humanly possible. Or even if you have the greatest marketing in the world, if you're not a very good salesman, you're barely gonna make any money.
Elijah, welcome to the podcast, brother.
Thanks for having me, G. I appreciate you. Happy to be here.
Man. Well, it's crazy because we've obviously done a podcast before. It was virtually, but now we're finally in person. And back then we were just friends, but now we've actually joined in on a partnership of growing and helping life insurance agents grow their business. What is the most important thing when agents are starting, right, their Facebook ad campaign? What is the most important thing the agents need to look at or think of, or what's their mindset that they need to have to make sure they're spending money profitably?
Yeah, good question. I actually think that, first of all, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. We're really grateful, and shout out to the community. I think ultimately it's counterintuitive, but especially in the beginning for most solo producers, it's actually knowing their sales numbers. So the better that they know their sales numbers, and in broad strokes call that dials to contact to presentation to closes. Those things are going to inform their cost per lead, and really most importantly their cost per acquisition, which cost per acquisition, especially as you scale, is infinitely more important than CPL, cost per lead. So there's a lot of little nuances. We're definitely going to go over that, which I'm excited to do and happy to help. But it's actually fundamentally knowing your sales numbers and your figures, because that lever, especially in the beginning that you pull, you can double, triple, 5, 10x even your business just by becoming a better salesperson. And you can do that much faster than you can trying to 10x your marketing. There's different things that we'll go over, different key metrics and ways that you can improve your marketing to get more bang for your buck. But honestly, if you become 2 or 3 or 4 times better of a closer, it's just going to supercharge even decent marketing and really, really take you to the next level if you have really good marketing. But tactically, sales numbers inform CPL, but really inform cost per acquisition. And then typically for a number for solo producers, if you can be at about 150 at the most or less on average, so maybe if you shoot for 100 to 120, 125 at scale with calling and even building a team, it's a really good place to be. And then your contract values, who you write, your sales ability, those things will take you from a 9 to a 10. So cost per acquisition.
So if you're just starting your Facebook ad setup, we recommend and we help agents, and we do like a done for you ad setup where we have one campaign that's running, two ad sets, and then 5 different ads per ad set, and starting it at $25 a day per ad set, scattered across the ads to be able to really see what works and so say that person presses go, right? What's next?
Yeah, so that's just to test, right? That's just to get an idea of what could work.
Some people might be asking, what if are ads gonna work on every single ad account that you use, or is it gonna vary, or how does that work?
Good question. So anyone who's advertised for any amount of time, especially on Facebook, knows there's literally no guarantees. You could have, because we see this literally all the time, you could have the same exact creative, so the same exact ad, picture or video, at the same exact budget, running for the same amount of time, targeting the same amount of people in the same exact states, and get completely different results. You'll typically get similar results, right? So call that between 5 and 15% difference, right, of cost, of effectiveness, of closing, etc. And it kind of depends on the agent for the closes. But you also get outliers who will get leads for 1/5 of the cost that someone else is getting, or sometimes 6 times the cost that someone else is getting, right? So there's different benchmarks and metrics we put in there to help them not just bleed themselves dry as far as spend goes. But yeah, I mean, we see that all the time. It still happens to us, both in our business and e-commerce. Anyone that's run any kind of traffic knows what I'm talking about. There is no guarantee, especially if it's a new account and you're launching. So the best thing I would suggest is you want to get to $100 a day as a solo producer in spend, because on average, even if your lead cost was $10 one day, $8 the next day, $15 the next day, 11, 20, 14, etc. Let's say you average somewhere between 8 and 12. That's going to give you enough volume, especially over the course of a week, couple weeks, a couple months, to really close at a high clip. And that a lot of times will negate whatever up and down you may have with your creatives and also give you time to test new stuff. So to your point about the 25 and 2 ad sets, like hyper tactically, if you're dead broke and you're trying to figure it out, I would save at least $1,000 in total that you can just mentally commit to spend, because number one, it needs time to optimize. Number two, you need enough lead flow to talk to. You don't want $1, $2, $3 leads where you strip a form down that's terrible quality. You got to call 500 people, not dials, 500 people to close. You don't want that kind of business. So about $1,000 will prove to you, if you do stuff right, which we can talk about, your creative, how many states that you have, and again, most importantly at this stage, ironically, your ability as a sales closer. So I would say about that, if you want like optimized version of that, 100 to 150 if you can afford it. But even 100 is a really good spot to be for 2 weeks. So about 1,400, a little more than 1,000, because now you have range, right? So the difference between closing 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, or anywhere up and down that spectrum, you can still be profitable depending on what you're writing. That's very, very difficult to do. It's doable, but it's very difficult to do if the entire month you're spending like $500, the entire month you're spending $700. The difference of 1 or 2 more sales up or down or not is drastically impactful to your bottom line. So if you can do it, $100, at least 2 weeks, $100 a day, you're usually gonna have a good idea of what you're gonna be producing.
Yeah, because when you're just starting your campaign, maybe you're not getting the actual closes that you want to have, but what are the like indicators that you're actually like hitting? There's indicators that you're close, right? Because we've tested stuff, we've tested new ads, tested new creatives, tested new copy, headline, whatever it is, right? Landing pages. And yeah, maybe there's not a close that actually happens, but there's indicators along the way that, hey, this is actually really good. And there's also what is it called? Statistical importance or something along those lines. There's a word for that, but
I'll tell you this:
significance.
the odds go up in your favor. Like even some of the stuff we ran, whether it be directly for insurance or other businesses, like even for us, I mean, we talk about lead cost or like cost per conversation or whatever you want to call it. It's largely irrelevant. We really care in our case about like cost per book call. And for you guys, maybe it's tracking cost per presentation or whatever. But the truth is, for us, since it's 2-step in that way, it's book call and cost per close. For you guys, it's really just cost per close. And so to your point, you might be $700 in with no closes, but you have enough repetitions on the phone and enough scale and enough time with Facebook to optimize that in another $200, so call it $900, you might close 5 on just that batch of leads. You might not close 5 the next day, but if you go back and you call it an age lead because it came in 4 days ago or 7 days ago or 14 days ago or a month ago, on that same spend, you might end up only spending 130 per close. Yeah. It's not going to fall statistically until enough time has passed, and we typically see that amount of spend is letting people do that. So
when you're testing, when's a good time to kill when do you know that you need to kill the ad? And by the way, if you don't know what killing the ad is, it pretty much means turning it off. When would you say that, okay, you've spent enough money, you've had enough flow come through that we need to turn these ads off?
Yeah. So I define it in 2 ways, and there's 3 things you can do, right? There's keep, kill, scale. And so they all kind of play within each other. The first thing I look at, even though I just got done saying cost per lead doesn't matter, but when you're first launching something, cost per lead is usually directionally correct, meaning even if that cost comes down or that cost goes up or that cost bounces around, if it's within a range that makes sense, it's probably going to be profitable or could be profitable more than something that's not. So as an example, if you're running a picture or a video and it's good, so it's either been proven or you think it'll work, it should be coming in $15 or less. And the truth is, the goal with that is usually a mix of like 7 to 12. If you can bounce around in there at scale, like you're going to do great, especially if it optimizes. That's number one. You may not get that off the rip, because if you're spending $25 a day, or even if you're spending 100, but you're testing 5 or 10 ads, a couple dollars a day up or down on each of those things in a given day is going to kind of mess it up or do really well.
Yeah.
So if you're directionally correct, meaning you're getting, first of all, are you getting leads regardless of the cost? Are you getting a result?
You should definitely be getting leads.
Oh my God, hopefully.
Once you spend $50, there should be at least one lead.
At
that
least a
comes in.
couple, honestly. Now, if you like spread that $50 among like 10 ads, probably not. But like 1 or 2 ads, you should. But is it getting leads? That's like a no-brainer. Like you have to be to keep it on. But number 2, if your lead cost, if you really want to prove it out, spend 3 times the amount that you would ever want to spend for a lead. So that would be up to $45 for a lead. That's super high, but that's like, again, at scale if you really want to prove something out. I would probably suggest if you spend 150 to 200% of what you would like to pay for a lead. So as an example, if you want to get $10 leads and you think you can as a marketer, a lead for 15 or a lead even for 20 optimized over time could start to pull down into 10. And it may never reach there, but also it might be 12 and it might be great quality, right? So whatever your benchmark is that you're looking for, just to be directionally correct, I usually suggest between 150 to 200% of what you would like to, so call it a 2x. If you get that within 3 days of spending a reasonable amount of money, then I would leave it for another 3 days and just keep calling. So you're measuring in about 3 to 7 day windows, right? About a week. If that continues to happen, so you're getting good lead cost, and you'll start to see it come down typically. All I care about is sales now. Like I always say this in the group, and I won't try to go on a tangent, but just for context, until you're hitting like probably $40,000 to $50,000 a month consistently as a solo producer, 90+% of what you need to deal with, improve, focus, get better at, etc., is sales. The other 10% is marketing. 90% of your effort or your fear or your concern or your excitement may come from marketing because it's not what you do. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's as important. So if you can be directionally correct, call that $10 to $20 for a lead or less. If you can get less, awesome. Is that happening for 3 to 7 days? If it's elevated after 3 days, is it coming down? If it is, keep them on. And then I'm literally just calling until I close. Because as soon as I close something, even if on the campaign you're not profitable, hopefully you are, but even if you're not,
Ad set usually are.
ad set and that ad, whatever that ad is, you have to be. Because if you're even break even on the campaign, you're going to be profitable on that ad. So that's kind of the cadence that I think through. Lead cost, if I get it 200% or less, I want to call for at least a week and get at least enough leads to have made sense that I could have closed. So typically we see 30 to 50 at the worst, but typically like 10 to 30. If you can close somewhere in there and your cost is south of 150, I mean, you could write the worst carrier with the worst comp and you're still going to be profitable. Usually. So that's what I would suggest on a hyper tactical, like this is how I read the account. That's what I would do.
There's so many different ways to get cost per lead down. But then cost per lead is not always better because you can actually dictate the friction and how many questions the client's answering. So how do you have a good mix of quality but then also quantity? What's your thought process there?
So like you said, there's a million ways you can do that. The number one way that will never not be good. So like the other ones, and you know what I'm going to mention, I'll talk about it, but the other ones are hit or miss. What will never not be effective, what will never not be good for your account, what will never not be necessary as you scale is testing creative. There's no way around it. There's not a fancy form. There's not some super cool lander. There's not some super secret marketing sauce. You literally need to be in the marketing trenches and testing stuff. We help people do that. A lot of times we'll give them hands-on pointers or sometimes even ads to run if we found something that's working in real time.
Because we're still testing creatives to this day. Like it's
every month. I test stuff even with our camera guy. Like I test stuff that I'm not even running myself just because I want to keep my skill set sharp. Right. So if it works, awesome. If it doesn't, why not? Let's see if we can make it work. So that's the number one way. There's no way around that. Second to that would be like you can test headlines, call to actions, etc. But really 80-90% of what you're going to get, especially now, is going to be creative. Number two, you could test forms. So like an instant form or even like a lander if you're running to that. The problem with that is this is primarily a volume game. So you don't want to sacrifice lead quality to get the cheapest leads of all time, and you also don't want $400 leads because it's, especially for this product, it's probably not going to be profitable.
Yeah.
So what I would say, and this is as of now, but always be testing. You want the most basic information you can possibly get, but you want to double verify the most important information. So as an example, phone numbers are pretty important. States are pretty important. Age is probably pretty important. Age you can kind of handle with the targeting, right? With setting the age range. But getting a hold of someone, email if you do some kind of follow-up, right? Double verifying and paying a little extra for that, massive, because you're never going to see these people in person that you might see like in a traditional business, right? So whatever that thing is, if it's really hammering down on state, if it's really hammering down on age, if it's a couple qualifiers depending on what you're selling, if you're selling something adjacent to this, as basic as you possibly can, and then for that one or two pieces of information, whatever it may be, double, even triple verifying. Are you sure this is the best way to reach you? Are you sure you still live in this state? Are you sure you only have X amount of assets, or you have more than X amount of assets? Those things are worth 10 times a cheaper lead cost or trying to answer everything pre-call. So whatever that is for you, that's what I would focus on. It's typically some kind of qualifier and some kind of way to get a hold of them.
The goal isn't for the person to be bought before the call. The goal is just to have them interested enough to answer the phone, but then also know that it's for life insurance, that they actually have a need. And then from there, you can go through the whole process, right? The Sales Sniper script that we have, there's scripts out there that you can use that really goes deep into each part of the process, and not just saying, hey, do you want to buy life insurance right now? But you take them into discovering, hey, what are you actually looking for? Are you looking to cover the burial or cremation or final expenses? Leave a little extra. Do you have a policy in place or not, right? And I think the problem that I see a lot of agents facing is they think that they have a marketing problem when they actually have a sales problem, right? Because marketing, if you're buying leads, and you actually told me this, which is really interesting, that if you're buying leads and you're not making sales, even if you're generating leads, if you're getting leads and you're spending a decent amount and you're not making sales, that's not the marketing's problem. Like the top dogs, the top people that have come into our community, the top people, even when I was running, I was still making sales even though the lead was $45 a piece. And it's super important to actually have the sales side dialed in, and then the marketing side's a supplement as well.
Yeah. Marketing makes, you need a basis of marketing, but marketing will take a really good salesman as far as humanly possible.
Like Max.
Yeah.
Or like a Sam or
Yeah.
somebody like that.
Right. Or even if you have the greatest marketing in the world, if you're not a very good salesman, you're barely going to make any money. And that barely, is going to range, right? But it's really tough because you can't overcome that. If you're a decent salesperson and you have halfway decent marketing, you're going to make a lot more than if all your attention is focused on marketing. This is coming from a marketer because I started in sales and then learned marketing. And I love marketing more than I love sales, and that's all I do. But I am telling you, like, even now for what we do, if statistically there should be a close and there isn't, I'd rather focus on getting at least one close and then optimizing everything else. Because number one, that's going to mentally make you feel better. But number two, it will prove that something somewhere in that thing worked. Because statistically, if you could advertise forever, even if it was the worst out of all time, you're going to make money. There's no way you don't make money. Now, can you spend forever? No. But like you said, even when you were, the different things that you've had to try, when you had to at points call 200-300 people to make a sale, you still made a sale. And so that guy is a lot easier to help and get to a 14x like you probably did than a guy who's trying all these different marketing things and is pretty good at marketing but is too afraid to call or won't do it consistently or can't close the door. Like that guy's really, or that girl is really, really tough to help. So again, I know we're talking about marketing. One of the best things you can do for your marketing is becoming a dog at sales.
How should small agency owners, right, $200,000 to $100,000 a month, really be allocating their budget to scale, but then also not scale too far into their margin?
Yeah. There was a guy, you mentioned him, Sam, who's kind of doing that. And this is coming from someone who came from e-com, where back in the day you could just literally double your budget every day. You just just make like infinite money. It doesn't work like that anymore. And that will continue to be even more true as time goes on. So the reason why I say that is if you have something that's working, your first thought obviously is going to be like, I want to spend as much as humanly possible to keep doing it. And eventually that will be true. Excuse me. But let's say you're at $100 a day and that's feeding you, but you got 2 guys you want to bring on. And let's say you're doing 30 and you'd like to get to 60. So you want each of them to do at least 15, you double your production. It's tempting to maybe jack it immediately up to 200 or 300 even, right? Mm-hmm. You can get there and it's very easy to scale, like monetarily. But the way we do it, even now, and even when we're running big numbers, and this is when I was spending multiple $1,000s a day in advertising, I still only scaled 10 to 20%. And I would do that every 3 to 7 days, especially 7 days as you get like much, much higher, but every 3 to 5 days, if you want to call it that. And I would also only do it on a profitable day. That might just be like ecom myth, right? But I did that because I didn't want to just keep doing it and compress my margin like you said. So if you're a guy who's doing pretty well, you're a girl who's doing pretty well, call that 20 to 40K a month. And you're consistent. Last 90 days, you've been in that pocket. And you want to build a team. It's really tempting to start doing the millionaire math and being like, well, if each of these guys, or if I bring on 10 more guys and they do X, Y, and Z, and all I got to do is spend more, I'm going to do this. You're probably not. And the truth is, you also personally are probably not even going to be doing the thing you thought you'd be doing, 20 to 40K a month, because your focus is on those people.
And your income drops, and either you get discouraged, you quit, thinks it's the industry.
Right. So what I would say is, let's say you're at 100 and you're producing 30 a month off that. Awesome. You bring on even just one guy. And let's just say you say, I'm going to pay for your ad spend. And it's going to come out of the bucket that's already optimizing. You might only bump that bucket to $120 a day, $20. But you keep doing those 10 or 20%, 30% if you want to be aggressive raises. In like 2 weeks, you're going to be at like $250, $300, which is probably more than you need for both you guys, maybe a third guy, depending on how good they are, right?
Yeah.
So in the same way that you want to be slow, steady, smooth, like the SEALs say, on raising it, it's the same practice you would hopefully be having with your sales guys, training them, actually walking them through, pulling a call, reviewing it with them, etc. And so that's the cadence I would take on a tactical level with marketing, 10 to 20%, especially at scale, every 3 to 7 days. And then on longer sales cycles, if you got like a team, $1,000, $2,000 a day, you could even go 7 to 10 day cycles for raises and really let stuff get dialed in or not continue to bleed.
Yeah, because you can become, a lot of people are like, hey, I'm producing, next level is to just get as many people in as humanly possible and start producing like that. The problem, there's a lot, but I'm just going to talk about one, is that you come in and all your time is now spent on investing into these people, right? Investing your time, energy, effort into these people, because you're hoping to get a future return on these. But you can't continue funding the business if you don't have today money. The only way you have tomorrow money is if you have today money and you're actually making money today. And I know this because, one, I've spoken to a lot of people who have fallen into that same thing, but I live that. I mean, that was me. I recruited 70 people in 1 month after I did 100K in 1 month. I just like, hey, I have the math. I have the formula. Now it's just jamming volume through when it's really not the case. So instead of going from a 1 to a 2 or 1 to a 3, let's go 1 to a 1A, then to a B, or 1 to a 2, that will really supercharge your business and profitability. And honestly, it's really fun. And that's how we literally started and created the 3-man dream team framework of starting agents, or me, right? I learned how to generate my own leads. I brought people in, I tested all these different things, didn't work. So it's just by myself again. But this was the third different time. But this time I was like, you know what? I'm going to take the 2 top guys that were in the agency that I had, and us 3 ended up doing $100,000 in business that next month. And so there's power in that. And what's crazy is I was feeding them leads. We're only at 3 to 3, maybe 4. Well, I don't even think we touched $400 a day. But in this time, it was like 250 to 350 in spend a day. And so what's cool is you do that. I mean, we spent 8 to 10 grand to do that, do 100K in production, and Both agents are crushing it. We have great culture. We're excited. There's good core people involved, and now we have momentum. Now we can keep growing. Now we can keep expanding. So it's become a supercharged agent. And you don't to double your income. Most people think they need to double their sales, but they really don't.
No.
All you need to do is just get two solid people in there, and that'll double your income alone.
Yeah. Yeah, I have nothing to add to that. It's true.
Yeah.
That's how if I were to go back, I would scale again. And that's what's cool is seeing other people now actually embrace that, go from like an Andrew Gula comes into us. He had 5 agents producing, trying to produce, trying to help other people. So scatterbrained because he's not getting the support that he needs from his upline agency, whatever. And comes in and he does $6,000 his like second week actually calling. And that's what the power of coming in, because now he's on a higher comp, he's making more money. And he now has the infrastructure in place, he has the lead system in place, so that now he can go out and just add more people to the leads he's not even able to call because he has so many coming in.
I'm going to assume that we'll do it into 2 camps. So the first one would be you have nothing working and you just got to like test to see if something's going to work. Assuming you have like no help, you're not in the group, whatever, which is fine. You just learn the skill. It's the same thing I said from before. So what per ad you want to test, you need to be willing to spend at least, especially if you have no winners, you need to be willing to spend at least
1,000.
1,000, but on a tactical level, if you're watching your account, that 150 to 200%, right? But 1,000 in general. And this is assuming you're bought in, you're going to call, there's no excuses, you get help if you need it, or if you can, but you're going to do the deal. And you just got to literally just keep rinsing and repeating until not even you get a good cost per lead, you close. Because if you don't have something that you can hang your hat on, you just need to go till you make money. And then you can figure out, like, okay, what worked about this, etc. That's one camp. The second camp is you actually have something that's working. It could be working a little bit. It could be working incredibly well. It could be the greatest ad of all time. Doesn't matter. You're making money to some extent. Whatever your budget is, I would always test with something on top of that. So as an example, if you're a solo guy and you're spending $100 a day and it's working, but you've been running it for a long time, right? Let's call a long time 3 months. And your costs are starting to go up. You're still closing and stuff, but like week over week, your cost is going up. That's natural. It's going to happen. You could take something as small as $10 a day. I would suggest probably 20, but you could take $10 a day per ad that you want to test and do the same exact thing you did before, just on a smaller level, because you have your winner. You have the thing that's actually predictably making money, and you're not stealing from it. This is on top of it. And the way you do that is putting it in a separate ad set, like on a practical level. Leave that ad alone. If it makes money, don't touch it. Scale it if you can, but if you don't want to, or you already did, don't touch it. Outside of that, separate ad set or ad sets, depending on how you're doing your testing, put a budget in there. I would recommend at an absolute minimum $10 a day per ad. So if you want to test 5 ads in the same ad group, $50 a day. If you can spend more, I think you should probably be in the neighborhood of 20 to maybe 30, because you will get the feedback loop faster. And then you're just going to literally do the same exact thing you just did on the $100 a day or $150 a day or $200 a day that you're winning on. You're just going to rinse and repeat. And when you find winners, you trim the fat that's around it, you let it optimize again, and you either scale it or you combine it and optimize it. Like there's a million ways you can scale past a couple hundred or even a couple $1,000s a day. But as far as just straight up finding winners, that's how you do it. You create, you test at a certain amount, a minimum of a certain amount of both time and money. You call, you close, you track your numbers, you figure out what works, you trim the fat, you leave what's good, or you scale it, and you rinse and repeat again. That's literally it.
Easy enough. What would you recommend running pictures or videos? What's kind of what you're seeing?
Both work, and both still work, and both will probably always work. If you're brand new and you can't afford to get ads or to pay a creator to shoot a video or know how to shoot a video, everyone can make pictures. Canva's free. There's tons of free templates. We've made bands off Canva, like a lot, in multiple businesses. Pictures. I would say if you can get into video and do video well, at scale, videos tend to be more engaging. But that doesn't mean, I need you guys to hear me, because this literally always happens every time I say this. That does not mean pictures don't work. I need you to hear me. We still run pictures. Sometimes pictures are, for efficiency, the most cost-effective thing you can do because so many people run videos, because they work. So a lot of marketing is not either or, it's both. It's to what degree do you do those things, right? So if you're an absolute beginner, you're an absolute noob, you got no bread, you can't pay someone to do it, you don't have time, whip up 100 variations of ads that you find in Canva. Change the colors, change some headlines, change some call outs, change a picture, whatever. We have a ton of free resources on that anyway. In the group, we go over that. But do that. You make 100 ads, you'll find a winner. I promise you. If you can then take what has worked in a picture and translate that to a video, very simple script. I'm talking 80 to 140 words. You don't even have to shoot it. You can go on Fiverr. You can pay someone that's in the demographic that you want to sell to speak it for you. They're usually between $50 and $150. They'll edit it for you. They'll probably put captions on it for you. Take that video, put it in your ad set, put $100 or $200 or $300 behind it, and you will probably make money. Like, that's the game, dude. And I'm laughing not because, like, oh, it's so simple. Like, anytime, even me as a marketer, I think it's going to be something else or I start getting fancy or whatever, it is literally never outside of that. So you're just rinsing and repeating that cycle. Pictures and videos work. Pictures are great for beginners. They're also great for people who know what they're doing because they just work. Videos are something you can move into. You can tend to offload that off your shoulders if you don't want to be in the video. You need to be a pretty good writer, and there's ways that you can find what's working. But yeah, both those things in conjunction, you know, our top guys that are in the group, top girls in the group, they're running both. Yeah. And they've made big money on both. It's never just this one thing. Like, good advertising and great sales always work well. That's the best thing I can say on that. So both work, but that's how I would do it.
Yeah. What is the biggest mistake that you see small agency owners that are wanting to scale make? And, like, how do they avoid it?
That's just what it is. Like, this is assuming you're not scaled up and you're not, like, dealing with bad agents. Or like, this is like, I'm trying to go from here to here, and I've never done that. You will find a million reasons to talk yourself out of it. And we've had multiple times, both before we did some stuff together and as we've done stuff together, that what we're spending or what we've spent or what we thought we'd make back is way more on the cost side and way less on the profit or the revenue side. And that's not a good feeling. Like, the feelings, the emotions that you have associated with that will probably never, ever go away.
Yeah.
But your reaction to them and your handling of them is literally what, especially in the beginning, what's going to make or break you. Like, we have a million stories. I won't share them now. Maybe we'll do a separate one. But, like, I'll give you an example. I had to test stuff when I was running my e-com stores for $300 a test. I was so broke when I first started. For that first product, it took me 3 months of working my full 12-hour-a-day job in sales because my commission structure was terrible and selling stuff on eBay. 3 months to save $300. I ran my first test, and because I ran it on a credit card, I ended up spending $1,042 and like 28 cents. So 3 times what I thought I spent 3 months saving, and I made $60.94 back. I sold a drop ship backpack to a lady named Maria G in Canada. I'll never forget her. It took her 45 days to get it. I emailed her every other day to make sure she knew where it was because I didn't want to charge back. She got it. She emailed me back. I love it. That little cycle, the 3 months that it took to save the money, the $1,000 in a week that I spent that I did not fundamentally have, and the $60 I made back, 45 after cost, that literally has translated into 7 figures today. So, like, I was terrified that entire time I did that. Even now, it makes me emotional, like, retelling that story, because I remember how I felt. And it wasn't in perspective that long ago. That has snowballed into spending many thousands of dollars a day, helping other people spend many thousands of dollars a day, producing many 6 figures a month, like all those different things between clients, us, people we advise on the side, etc. That came from me handling how I felt over and over and over and over and over again. And so if you're scared to spend $50 a day, there's nothing wrong with you. I get it. But you'll never make it. So both of those things are true, right?
Yeah.
If you can't spend that, you're not going to get the scale that you need. And conversely, if you spend it without having the emotional discipline, if stuff is going well or stuff is going bad, that's also going to wreck you. So being able to be, if you want to call it stoic or disciplined or whatever, and do the work that you need to do, irregardless of how you feel, and spend the money that needs to be spent to get the data sets back to make decisions, is the number one thing that you can do. And for sure, the number one thing that we see holds people back. Like, you know this. How many times have we told the same people the same exact answer to the same problems? And the way they ask it is different because they feel different things. This thing happened, that thing happened. Well, I tried that. And it's the same thing. You're going to be stuck in that perpetual cycle if you do not handle how you feel. So that's what I would say. Scared money never makes money.
A lot of it comes down to mindset and like mindset that like you are worth investing in, number one. And number two is I'm just going to like how I look at it is spending money on ads. You're going to lose money, but there's really not a downside to actually spending money on ads because I'm either going to learn or I'm going to make money, which is awesome. And when I learn, I know exactly what doesn't work now. So now I try something else and I try something else and I try something else. And now we're 2 months into a test that we've sunk $30,000 in and we figured out 50 to 100 ways of how something doesn't work. But that's the scary thing. I mean, that's the reality. Like you don't know if it's going to work. You don't know when it's going to work. And when it does work, it can catch you by surprise because it's working so well that it actually breaks and now you aren't ready for it, right? So there's a lot of different things. You just have to stay in the pocket and keep trying and keep testing. And I think if I could say anything as a sales guy, I would rather put my money in knowing that I can close anybody and having that mindset that every time I get somebody on the phone that it is up to me, right? If it's meant to be, it's up to me. If taking that extreme ownership perspective, that yes, the marketing could be better. The marketing will always could be better, but the reality is if you have somebody who's interested, you need to be able to take them and have a proven process, have a script, have the frameworks, have the word tracks, have the analogies, have the hooks, have the whatever to be able to take this person, give them the belief that they need to be able to take a step, or the consequence, show them their life if they actually don't take the step that they know they should make. Because at the end of the day, at least the marketing that we run and help with, like it's not anything crazy. Like it's not, if you've never seen ads that we've run and you see it for the first time, you're like, that's shocking. Like I can't believe this is it. I remember when I was first starting and hearing about different people, I'm like, what are they running and seeing it? It's like, that's not that crazy. But there's magic in the sales process. If you get really good at that, the people who've come in, who've hyper executed, that have been like, I'm going to close everybody, having the mindset of sales and being really good at that and making sure the tonality is on point, they're asking the right questions, they're getting the answers that they should get from the clients, leading them down the right decision-making path to be able to actually make a decision. Those are the people who are just continuing to crush it, even when the election's going on, even when AEP is going on, even when all these different things are going in, all this money's coming in, people are just, the costs are elevated, they're still profitable, and honestly, they maintain. I remember one of the top producers that we kind of help, he got a lot less leads and still closed the same amount of production. Like I think he had the least amount of leads that month, and he had like a $50,000 month, and it's because his sales process is so dialed in. And so number one, focus on your sales and get somebody to help you with the marketing. Number two, I would say, is if you can combine excellent marketing with excellent sales, you will be printing money like nobody's business. But then at that point, it's just there's another problem to solve, right? Because you have everything lined up perfectly. Now it's like, now I got to learn how to manage. Now I got to learn how to create processes. Now I got to learn to manage a team, whatever it is. There's so many other things that come with it. I want to go into like a quick thing of like, okay, if somebody's ad account gets disabled, what are you doing? How do you let's talk through that, because I think a lot of people can relate to this. And I don't know why it's been happening a lot recently. So like, what does somebody do when their their ad account gets disabled or banned and they can't advertise anymore?
Honestly, if anyone ever genuinely figures that out, I'll give like the best tips and tricks we know to date. But if anyone can figure that out, I mean, that's no lie. It's probably worth about $1 billion a year, like account security, account maintenance, etc., accounts in good health, because it affects literally everyone.
Yeah. Shoot me a DM on Instagram if you have the solution.
Yeah, we'd love to pay you. We don't have $1 billion, but we'd love to pay you something. In general, I'll just walk through. There's actually a really good video. I think his name is Ben Heath. He's a UK.
Yeah.
Ben he kind of goes over. He doesn't go over like super tactical stuff, but he goes over like what could basically get you banned. At least as of this video, he dropped it like a week or two ago. So I watched it. There wasn't like a ton new in there, which I'll just share in this video. But basically what he said was, in general, what you'll see is you're either going to get an ad issue, a suspicious activity, like a generality suspicious activity issue, or a payment issue. And there's different things to each of those. But on the ad side, so everything's good, but you got an ad that was rejected. Usually just the ad is rejected. It doesn't affect the account, just the ad is rejected. You could just request a review. Sometimes doing that will make the entire account get disabled. Sometimes you'll get the ad back and you can run it. Sometimes it won't affect the ad account, but you can never run that ad again or whatever. If you don't have backup accounts and you don't know how to do that and you've never really advertised and you really need to make money and you get an ad rejection, I would probably just delete the ad or request the review, see what they say, because usually they're not going to ban your account. They may do it if you try to run other stuff immediately. But I would typically probably just request a review, see what they say. If it's a yes, maybe try to run it. If you're brand new, maybe run something else. If they say no and they disable that ad set or that ad asset rather, that creative, move on to something else, delete that ad. If they say suspicious activity, if you're whipping up accounts or like you're going, even like for us, we experience that, right? Because we know how to set accounts up. We help you guys do it. We do it for you, etc. Sometimes that can trigger Facebook. Like, how does this brand new person in 15 minutes know how to do everything? They're up and they're running profitable ad. Like, that's insane. That's not normal. That can be a red flag. So sometimes just, even if you're getting it done for you set up, it's like taking that slow, which sucks. We don't like to deliver on that because we're ready to go. And for sure the client doesn't like it. But do you want to risk the account and then have to try to whip up another one or someone else's? It's a headache. You can do it, but it's a headache. That would be number 2. So like, go slow, act like a normal person. Don't go crazy. Number 3, and this one's been killing a lot of people lately, and this goes back to what we were talking about money, card issues. Not expiration, because they're actually kind of lenient with that, at least in my experience. Swapping cards, not taking a card off that you canceled, not having enough money on the card, switching in between cards, forgetting to add a card, not paying a balance. Like, you got to remember, Facebook is a business, so if you mess with their money, they're going to err on their own, or they're going to err on the side of caution in their own best interest, and they're fine kicking you off even if you owe them $20, $100, because they're weighing you out risk-wise, right? So it sounds like, yeah, no duh, but I'm just going to say it. If you put a card on file that does not have the amount you're planning on spending, not for the day, like in general, don't use that card, or wait till you stack some money up in that card. Or sometimes some accounts will allow you to like prepay, so you could put like funds on the account. You could try that, and then if once those bleed through, then it'll try to charge the card or have a backup. But if you can't run yet, don't. It's not worth losing, especially with the election and how finicky Facebook is going to get. And as it's getting competed with other platforms, it's going to try to insulate and protect itself. And a good way of doing that is it knows who spends the big boy dollars, and those guys don't get messed with. You, Boo Boo Head McGee, who's never spent anything, and you're trying to whip something up, it's going to kick you. It's not going to kick Coca-Cola. Like, that's just the truth. It's not fair, but that's just the truth. So don't put bad cards on. Don't forget you have an old card on. Don't forget that you had a card that's not going to have money on. Don't put something on that is a credit card but has a maxed out limit or is close to it. Like, just use your head. And I don't mean that in a mean way, because I've had payment issues too before, especially when I was super broke. But I've also lost accounts to that, so don't do that. Put a fresh card on. If you can't pay for it, that's fine. Stack some bread, work another job, do what it takes to make it in this world. Have some money to actually play with and go in with full confidence. It's the scare money, don't make money. It's typically what I see. But payment issues have been really, really ravenous to most accounts as of late. Second to that, again, just to recap, going too fast, doing your stuff, setting your stuff up. And number 3, trying to push through bad ads or keep getting banned. Facebook kind of works on a point system. They're not clear on what that point system is, but you could tell. So you don't want a bunch of derogatory marks basically on your account. Play it safe. You want to live to be able to spend another day.
Yeah, that's good. If you have any other questions in regards to getting your ad account disabled, drop in the comments down below.
Chat's useless. We find chat and phone 100 times out of 101 are the most useless thing.
Chat.
You just spam chat until you get the 15th supervisor, and then maybe they'll do something, but probably not.
Yeah. Well, this is the like complete Facebook ads masterclass. If you want access to not only me, but not only Elijah, but actually for both of us on the sales side, the marketing side, the insurance side, this is what we help agents and small agencies and agency owners with, is growing their business to that 100K a month profitably mark. So if you love this video, drop in the comments down below. Share this with a friend if you found it valuable. Subscribe to the channel right now, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Adios.